news, pop culture, and the quirkier side of life. The Todd Starnes Commentary.
President Obama is packing his bags for vacation. A 17-day trip to Oahu, compliments of the American taxpayer. The first family shacking up at a palatial oceanfront home that rents for nearly $25,000 a week. When you toss in the shaved ice, greens fees, and the gas for Air Force One, we're looking at one pricey Hawaiian holiday. I still don't understand why the president can't let his hair down in Branson, Missouri, or Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. Dollywood is lovely this time of year. Or better yet, why not use the Priceline negotiator? Save the taxpayers a few bucks. I got online and found the president some great accommodations at the Maui Best Western. $90 a night gets you free Wi-Fi, a continental breakfast, and a rollaway bed. Mele Kalikimaka, America. I'm Todd Starnes.
Thank you, Todd Starnes. Appreciate it. We have a very special guest coming up on the flip side of the hour. He's been through a lot, and he continues to change the landscape of how media/journalism is carried out. The Gateway Pundit. That's right. Jim Hoft going to be with us. We'll be speaking to the Colorado shooting and, well, name it, because we're going to be hitting it. But one of the subjects will be the Kansas bombing plot out of Wichita that was stopped and the issues surrounding that. We'll also be speaking to Christian persecution in the world. Jim has done some outstanding work of highlighting the intolerance in the world of Christians, specifically in the Muslim world. So we'll get to all that. But right now I want to take you to a place called Melissa Harris Perry, MSNBC land. Okay? Is that what it's called? No, I think it's the Melissa Harris Perry show. Okay. Really, Crane. I mean, that's not very respectful. I don't mean it as disrespectful. In fact, I gained a little more respect for the host because she had an actual debate on, even though as charted by Noel Shepard of Newsbusters, he covered this story. And he talked about Ron Christie, a Republican strategist, who was one conservative versus three liberals. He happened to be black. That is germane to the conversation in the sense that race is the topic of the conversation. Frankly, in the sense of substance, I don't think it is, because I don't play that. You judge it on the substance of the statement and determine its veracity and say, okay, what's being said here? Is it based on reason? Is it based on fact? Is it based on emotion? Is it based on intent? What is it? Well, Democratic strategist and former executive director of the Congressional Black Caucus, Angela Rye, was speaking to the political situation in 2010. What was that? The rise of the Tea Party. But it started under Bush. I know. But she went on to talk about the racial overtones of the Tea Party. And she repeated something that simply is not true. You mean the Tea Party's racist? Well, that's not true, but she got specific. Here's where the conversation picks up between the former executive director of the Congressional Black Caucus, Angela Rye, and Democratic strategist as well, and Ron Christie, Republican strategist. Roll it.
And I was just thinking, to me, in 2010, the Republican infighting took a particularly dangerous tone because it wasn't just about infighting anymore. It was about taking our country back with the resurrection of the Tea Party. And it was very, very racial, whether any of them will admit it or not.
Racial, absolutely. I will not sit here and allow you to say that. The Tea Party came in. There were 63 people who came in 2010 because the government grew
you
too
should
much
calm down
because
just a little
I
bit,
will not allow
because
people to
let
sit
me
here
tell-
and
well,
say there's
I'm
a
gonna-
racial aspect
I
to it. That is
don't-
absolutely
I'm sorry.
Okay, actually,
that is absolutely
so this is absolutely
calm down.
valuable, and I'm not going to let it die over the course of the commercial. I want
Now, to her credit, Melissa Harris Perry, and I know she says some really whacked out things, a big surprise. Think about the network. That said, she allowed the debate to move forward, which, yeah, I respect that. So the debate or discussion moved forward. Roll it.
Tea Party has some serious racial challenges. For example, when the House of Representatives were voting on Obamacare, all of the Tea Party members that came to protest on the Hill spat on my future boss, who was the Congressional Black Caucus incoming chair. John Lewis, who had already been beaten and bludgeoned trying to ensure that we would all have voting rights and parity in this country, was called the N-word. So this isn't something that I made up. These are things that really happened and continue to happen. And I think that we see them in the way in which people continue to talk about the president, to the president, challenging his citizenship and all of those things. Is that reflective of all people in the GOP? Absolutely not. But I think it absolutely is a problem, and it has to be addressed. I can tell you it happens every time I'm on MSNBC in my Twitter feed, that people are touting that they're Tea Party
I'm
members.
curious, were you there that day?
No, I was not there that day.
I was actually there that day. I was doing a stand-up for MSNBC. I was actually out talking with Tea Party people. I actually saw John Lewis walk out to go to the Capitol to vote. I did not hear the N-word being
sorry
said.
you didn't hear it.
Well, even
It's absolutely-
and John Lewis has never said on camera. Reporters have asked him, "Did people call you the N-word?" And he has
And
not
most
said
of the
anything.
members have said that they will refuse to talk about that day because it was so insulting. They were going to preserve health care for
the
so
only
many
thing I can
people.
say to you is that I was there. I was standing there. I was listening. I didn't hear it.
I'm sorry.
And so again, it's a difference of opinion. But for you,
It's
for
not
not
an
having,
opinion.
for you not having been there, and me
I've
actually
talked
having
to the
been there,
members, Ron.
when I've talked to the members myself, I was physically there.
I've talked to the members, Ron. Yeah, the late, great Andrew Breitbart actually offered $100,000 for evidence of this. Well, it's not like we live in an age where everybody has a phone on their camera, Crane. I mean, you're not going to die. And it wasn't like all the networks were actually there. Oh, they were there. They were there. They haven't been able to catch this. No, they haven't. No evidence. So not only was Ron Christie there, he also has the $100,000 challenge, never taken up. John Lewis never say. I love how Angela Rye brings up the bludgeoning of John Lewis as if to say, you know what? While being a courageous leader on civil rights and the horrible treatment that he received and endured, that somehow is applicable to people opposing the takeover of the healthcare system. What? Oh, no. See, Crane, you don't get it. See, let me help you out here. Maybe this will be in a way like a little cheeseburger protein shot to the melon for you so you can understand it. Here it is in a nutshell. It's made in a nutshell. Here it is. The idea is I want you to take what you feel when you see in history or you see an event where somebody is physically mistreated, bullied because of their race. Now, you got an image, don't you? Maybe some people who like to dress up in sheets and burn small teas. Or maybe it goes the other way and you got the little beret wearers and their nice little sunglasses and, nifty fatigues. Or maybe, I don't know, I always just throw them in because they are part of the all-star team of morons. That would be the Westboro Baptist Church with their signs that are so hateful. But we'll just stick to the racial folks here first. And think about that and the outrage you feel. People feel this, you know why? Because when you have the Klan show up and try to march down the street, they have to have law enforcement there. Why? Because they're going to do what they did in the past and we're part. No, because they're going to meet resistance. Big time. Thank you, Dick Cheney. So that's to keep in mind what we feel. I shouldn't mention this, but I'm going to. I will say that there have been very few times in my existence that I've been moved to physical action. And this is not me in any way. I'm not proud of this event. but somebody had made a comment about somebody very close to me in a derogatory way. Did he use the O word? The Obamacare word? Yeah. So anyway, I understand the rage one can feel. I don't condone it in the sense of physical force or anything like that, but I understand that we all feel when we see somebody on the Springer stage making an asinine comment. There's this. Was that before you came to Christ? Yes, it was before I came to Christ, but I still kind of feel it. So I get it. Thank you for the protein. I get it. You should get it. And you should also understand, or allow me to put this out here and Buffet, take it or leave it. What kind of person uses that and applies it to something where people are standing up and voicing their outrage over the takeover of the American healthcare system as we know it, the full takeover, because let's be honest, it was never truly a free market beforehand. It's been incrementally chipped away at, so the consumer and provider really don't have that direct relationship. And as Mises points out, that you're really not going to establish much of a price. But I digress. Think about that for a moment. Think about that person exploiting that. And you've just looked at every race hustler out there. And that's why we mention them. And we don't really focus in too much on MSNBC and the way, because I trust that the vast majority, at least through their viewership, generally speaking, is not very strong, that not many people are buying into it. But these are the types of comments and the narrative that the low information voter will cling on to. Oh, that's, it's racist. They did get spat. No, they did not. And here's another point. If anybody actually did that, I think they would be summarily, I think there would be a reaction from within the Tea Party community. Absolutely. Because they don't want any of that stuff. That's ridiculous. Now, are there any group, any organization, you're going to have people that are not acting right and they're stupid, misguided, and quite frankly, they're nuts. I get that. But we're talking very specifically about the Tea Party smear that has been used time and time again to try to marginalize what was the greatest political force that we have seen organization-wise in a grassroots way since, I think, the mobilization of the evangelicals in 2004 because of the 10 amendments in the 10 states that had marriage amendments or something concerning the definition of marriage on the ballot during that presidential election. That all said, I just want you to think about somebody exploiting that and how disrespectful it is to the very people that she claims to respect and love. And it also is destructive. Good for Ron Christie saying, no, you're just not going to, that's a smear. And he got very angry about that. I think rightfully so. I think the problem has been that you have people attempting to say these things about the Tea Party over and over again, and somehow that locks in. And that's a big, big problem because they're allowed to say it, and it's, hey, you're calling me something, and that really, or you're saying something about a group that I recognize and relate to because they understand the concept of living in a government. They get the fact that, oh, it's human nature, and you don't lose that. The left believes you lose that in some way. It evolves. Our nature evolves. We know that we are fallen. We know that just because you're in government, that doesn't change. So we don't look at somebody to rule us as conservatives, as conservative Christians. But I would say there are parts of the Christian community, absolutely, the body of Christ, that does believe in a big government response. And we just would disagree. Again, Buffet, take it or leave it. But if you look at how it manifests, if you look at how power manifests and the reasoning behind it and what this demonstrates, what this illustrates about someone who really can't defend anything on the substance, so they have to go to a really cheap shot, one that has been exposed as a myth, a lie, and yet still uses it, clings to it, and then invokes the civil rights legacy that I believe conjures a great deal of emotion for all of us because we oppose it. Understand that these things will be continued to be used, because how else are you going to defend an absolute across the board in policies? And then generally speaking, I can't really speak to a success, but policies of the left liberal side that we've seen in the last 5 years put forth. How are you going to defend that? And how are you going to defend people that keep calling more for more of the same, and keep blaming others for the failures of their policies? And just say one more time, it's got to be, the answer is just more of what we've tried. So, but we look at the results, and we look at history, and we look at, 7% unemployment, that's masked. It's about 9% demographically adjusted if you look at people who were in the workforce and have left the workforce, if we're talking about the same group. And I think we're at, is it 8.1 or 7.9% if just last year? I mean, it's an amazing stat, but you realize that the statistical game is just that. You realize that there is not a recovery in the sense of a country that has policies where they incentivize production. And you realize that their entire economic plan and outlook and agenda is about making people equal. That would have us violate the 10th commandment and put government into the place of the enforcement mechanism. We'll talk about that ideology on the flip side, plus Jim Hoft. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth, probably on AFR Talk.